Alright, let's just get this one out of the way because welcome to my least favourite set of all time. Hey guys, this is GamerCal. We're on the TCG history stuff here, episode, what is this, 39 of the actual history bit here rather than just a draft. End of XY, Evolutions, it isn't the reason why I stopped playing the game. I stopped playing the game for financial reasons because, well, it's kind of hard, even with PTCGO, it was kind of hard to keep up with playing the game when, you know, I wasn't playing it that often and the sets are, you know, they cost money to get the packs in order to get the stuff. So I couldn't really keep up. And this set really didn't inspire a lot of confidence for it either. I have some of the cards of this set on the migrated live account, but man, they are bad. Let's just put it that way. Evolutions is it's an aping of the first set of the game, more or less, and all of the stipulations that has are here as well. But it's worse than that because not every card in the base set is even here, and I'm not just talking about the trainer cards either. I think there's a couple of Pokemon that are specifically missing here, even accounting for, you know, missing evolutions and stuff. That part is fine because you know, there was no Rapidash, so we're not going to have a Rapidash in here. But even accounting for that, I'm pretty sure there are still some missing cards in here, which is ridiculous. And there's Dragonite for some reason. He wasn't any part of the base set, but sure. I guess he can exist if he wants, why not? This is also the final set that has both Megas and also Breaks, because we're moving into Gen 7 after this. Both of those mechanics don't migrate over. We're going into GX Pokemon, one of which we actually have down here in the promo section. We will get to that as we go, because there's actually a lot of promos here, and these are far more interesting than what's in the actual set itself. So, yeah. I mostly dislike this set because I really hate the way the cards look. They're trying to ape the original style of the cards, right? I don't dislike the artworks, obviously. Artworks are totally fine, and it's still great seeing some of them like come back. They are very how to say, pixely and stuff here. Like, a lot of them just look really bad, but that might be the scan quality of the stuff here. I have never seen these cards in real life, so I wouldn't really know that way. But a lot of them just look worse than what they should be. I think this feels like the pre-release one with the art as it is, but I don't know. There's a fair few, like mostly the starters have their EXs and one of their Megas in Charizard's case. They have those preserved. We have Spirit Links for them now, so we finally get access to, like, when we eventually find it again, I just scroll right over it. Venusaur Spirit Link is finally a thing, but oh, I despise the formatting on these cards. You will never see me play a copy of any of these cards that has a different version elsewhere, and I think basically every single one of these cards does. The exception is Professor Oak's Hint, which is terrible. We'll get to that later. And the full art of Misty's Determination. This is the only full art that this card gets. It doesn't get very many printings in general, and so if you want to play a full art one, you kind of have to play this one. But otherwise, yeah, this set just looks like trash. Basically all of the cards in here, with about half a dozen exceptions, are complete trash. We will go over the cards that are good, obviously, as we go, but they're all... a lot of them are even worse versions of what they were in the original set, too, as hard as that is to believe. Like, yeah, Magneton actually doesn't do more damage either. I know we have Magna Zones now, so it kind of can't, but let's be honest, this is exactly the same thing, pretty much. Maybe even worse than what the original one was, because at least the original one could do some bench damage with its self-destruct. So, yeah. I don't know. I just really don't like this set. But there are a few things to talk about. Before we get to that, though, I will actually talk about the promo stuff first, because again, a lot of this I think is more interesting. We have just had a rotation when this set has come out. So, like 3 months ago, basically, by the time this set comes in, we have had a rotation. It has removed a lot of pretty important things, it has basically removed every single tool removal card that we have right now. So Garbodor is kind of nuts, and that really dilutes a lot of what is potentially good in the format. But we do technically have one new thing that removes tools. People unironically had to play this card if they wanted to remove tools from play. And this functionally read as you are not allowed to play ability decks unless you have a crazy amount of Lysander to get the Garbodors in. Because otherwise you're just not removing the tools. Beedrill being a 160 HP EX that has to take an attack to discard the tools, technically speaking, taking an attack is actually like better for it in this case, because it means that it doesn't get negated by Garbodor itself. We will actually see that in the set proper. There is a Pokemon that removes a tool by, you know, ability, and that doesn't work. But it's so bad, like, it's so frail, it gives up 2 prizes, and you have to attack with it, like, really? It has a Mega, and it does technically have a Spirit Link too, so this is a Mega that can be played. 200 HP, I think this is the lowest HP on a Mega that isn't Mawile. So, yeah, not a great start there. At least it doesn't have a retreat cost, that's reasonable. 2 Grass Energy, so maybe it's possible to pay for this attack at least. What does it do? 40 damage. Yeah. You discard all the energy that's attached to it, so it's 40 with a double discard, like what? But luckily it does do something else that's kind of neat. Auto Paralysis, Auto Poison, and that poison is 4 damage counters instead of 1 between turns. So realistically this is 80 damage that it's doing, but it does at least scale up pretty quickly as well. If the opponent doesn't have a switch card, then you could reasonably get them to take effectively like 200 damage off of this, more or less. So yeah, it's fine. It's technically 160, but you've got an attack next turn as well. So like, yeah, it's okay. It's in grass. You can Mega Turbo with it, so there's at least stuff going that way. But like, I just know. Forest of Giant Plants, I guess, is there. It's possible to turbo into this. It is not the worst thing that I've ever seen, but it's so underwhelming, and it's so disappointing too, because like we're finally getting these Oras Megas coming in here with this set too, and it's just bad. That's all there is to say. Black Kyurem is fairly close. There was a white Kyurem before that for 1 water and functionally 1 fire energy did 40 and 20 to 2 of the opponent's bench. This one does a similar thing where it's like it attacks for water, but if you have a lightning on as well, then it does 20 to each of the opponent's bench. The only reason this card is not like something I would consider is because it takes 2 water. If it only took 1, then I could see this in a Magnezone Kingdra deck, because you'd be able to do like the 1 water that Kingdra needs anyway, and then Magnezone free lightning to it, and do 120, 20 to, it's actually 120, not 100, 20 to 2 of the to each of the opponent's bench. That's a lot of damage output. So like, it's almost there, but it takes 2 water, and that is too much. So unfortunately, not very good. Garchomp, the less that's said about this, the better, but it has an EX and a Mega and the Spirit Link to go with it. This actually did have an EX right at the start of XY, but I think that one's rotated out at this point. This is just garbage. We don't even need to talk about this. The Hyper Beam's not even an auto discard. How do you mess that up so badly? I don't know. And then the Mega Garchomp, 1 water, 2 fighting, and a colorless to only do 180 damage. We have attacks that do more than that for less, but it does 10 to itself for every damage counter on it. And it only has 210 HP. How do you mess up Garchomp this badly? It's ridiculous. The funny thing is, like, the non-EX Garchomp could one-shot this thing with some damage mods. And like the 2 strong energy and the Regirock, which is not like that unreasonable, you could one-shot this. It's so dumb. Salamence also gets a Mega in here as well, but spoilers, the Mega is really bad. Looks cool, but Savage Wing is just horrible because we don't have like Ember. This is the kind of attack, if we had Ember, then maybe we could do some good with this. 1 fire, 1 water, 2 colorless to do 100. You have to discard as many basic fires as you have on this No, actually, you discard as many as you like, so you can choose, like, modulate the damage here, and it does 40 more for every energy discarded, so if you're just paying base cost, in theory, you could discard 3, do 220. That's barely even more than what Tyrantrum was doing as a basic, right, for the same attack cost and the same discard, so just why? It's so much more effort to do that. At least you can modulate it, but 4 energy for 100 is also terrible. If you put a double dragon energy on this in order to speed up the process, you can't discard that double dragon to do more because it's not a basic fire, so yeah, pretty bad. The Salamence, on the other hand, did have a little bit of hype for, I think it's pretty much like this little stint, and maybe a tiny bit of next format, but it's mostly this one I think it's good for, because for 1 fire and a double colorless, Beastly Fang does only 10 damage, but it does 50 more for each of the opponent's EXs. So until GXs start taking over properly, which is not for a couple of sets to be honest, this card is pretty insane against a lot of decks. There's quite a few that play mostly just EX Pokemon, and this can do a ton of damage against them. I have seen this teched into decks. I think this was part of like the Darkrai and Dragons thing that ended up being good. It used to be just Giratina that was played, but this is a good dragon to go alongside it as well. So yeah. There's no distinction between these 2 rows here, so we'll just go over the rest of the stuff. We do get Mew EX back, finally. This is the artwork it gets printed with as well. Pretty nice one. So, Versatile is back. We do have the one Prizer Mew that can copy basic Pokemon, but this one can copy any attack in play, not just your own basics. So there's a lot of versatility, literally, that this one has, and I mean, we played it before in 2013 and whatnot, right? So in expanded, like, Night March would have been taking advantage of this anyway, so it's kind of cool. I don't know if there's going to be any decks that we want to use it with, and it is very vulnerable to Garbodor, right? So probably isn't going to see play, but it's nice to have it. This beginner is now available. This is the very last one of the Generations promos, I'm pretty sure. It was either this or Volcanion. I'm pretty sure this is later in the Pokédex. It's only really noteworthy because Prismatic Wave is literally an anti-Rainbow Road tech, and we did play Rainbow Road last time, so we'll note it anyway. For 1 Metal Energy, this does 20 for each different type of Pokemon on the opponent's bench, and it is Metal type, so it hits Xerneas for weakness anyway. No other deck really plays a lot of different Pokemon types that much. You're only realistically going to get 60, maybe 80 damage out of this, if you're lucky. So it's specifically against Rainbow Road, but that deck is very quick and very aggressive, so it's possible that you just get beat up, you know, by that one thing, and it's a good tech. Speaking of good techs, let's skip ahead real quick to the Giratina, because this is also a very good tech, specifically against Greninja and Yanmega. This 130 HP bench sitter has Devour Light, which prevents Pokemon Break from having abilities. This also includes Prevos of those Pokemon as well, so this will shut down Yanmega entirely, because Yanmega relies on the ability of its previous stage, and so it just gets wrecked. Also, Greninja cannot Giant Shuriken with this in play. So yeah, it's a 1-card tech. You can include Chipperichi, which will be hopefully showing his Ray deck, his Mega Rayquaza deck top-8'd Athens Regionals in this format, and played one of these. So I don't think we're actually going to see it used for its main purpose, unless a break comes in somehow. But, you know, it's in the deck because it's a good tech. Moving backwards real quick, we get the final Break Evolution box here as well, which has Arcanine, Mandibuzz, and Crobat, which we will talk about in a little bit, because there's history on there. Arcanine Break is 160 HP, and it has the Turbo Flame attack, which is basically a weaker version of Mega Manectric's Turbo Bolt. Turbo Bolt has just been rotated, so 80 damage, attach 2 basic energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. It's not a bad attack, but it is a very slow Pokemon to get into play, and I mean, we don't have Blacksmith anymore, so I guess you've still got to manually attach to this thing. A little bit awkward, but at least you don't have to play a Spirit Link for it, so I suppose there is that. There's some use for this, but it's very tricky to get to play, so probably not going to see it. Mandibuzz Break, on the other hand, this builds up from the Mandibuzz that does 60 for a colorless to one of the opponent's Pokemon that has an ability, so that's really cool. And the Wings of Disaster over here, let's rotate this one round so you can actually see it properly. For one colorless energy, this 140 HP break does 20 to each of the opponent's Pokemon. You don't apply weakness and resistance, kinda sucks for the active, but pretty good if they're fairy type, right? Because that does resist dark. But it also discards all Pokemon tools attached to each of the opponent's Pokemon. Yeah, this is the one thing in format that can like mass tool remove right now, which is pretty cool. And I think there is a deck you could play with this in Yveltal, to be honest. Because, yeah, the regular Mandibuzz is pretty okay as it is. This has got some good tool removal for the deck. And Yveltal Break works on Pokemon that have taken damage already, so yeah. On to like the card I'm probably saltiest about off the stuff here. Karen came out after the rotation in 2016. I'm like still just beside myself on how this was allowed to exist as a thing. I know Expanded was a very well played, or like that was a format that a lot of regionals were forced to play, so this still had some use there, but it's so dumb. Each player shuffles all Pokemon in his or her discard pile into the deck. As a supporter card, fair enough. It's obviously a really stupid effect to have on trainers, on like an item, so I'd be fine with that. But why did we not have this after Lysander's trump card got banned? Surely, maybe not immediately, but I've had plenty of discussions with this on my Discord. Surely we should have had this like 3 months after that got banned. Because this would have solved the Night March issue entirely. And that was basically the best deck in the previous format. I know we didn't show it very many times, but that's because we just didn't want to play it very often. There's only so often you can play the same sort of deck, right? And this would have been a check to it. A lot of decks just lose to Night March, and this would have been the out. I'm still just beside myself as to how did they not release this early enough. It's crazy, but it does exist now. There is still Vespiquen that it could beat up, so it's not unplayable, but it might as well be. I don't think we're ever seeing this in a deck, so yeah. And finally, ahead of the Sun and Moon base set coming out, we actually got a Snorlax GX promo box. So we get the new mechanic here, and we can talk a little bit about that. We'll talk more about it in the Sun and Moon base set itself, because that's where the rest of them come in. But basically, GXs are 2 prize Pokemon that have a special attack, which is a shared once per game effect here. So Snorlax itself, it's got 2 attacks here. It's 190 HP as well, so it's on the bigger end, the same as Zygarde here, but this just shows you the sort of standard that basic GXs are going for here. 190 HP, triple colorless energy for 80, and it puts itself to sleep. That sounds bad, but it's actually kind of fine, because for 5 colorless energy you do 180 damage, but it can only be used, or it only does damage if you are asleep. So there is a Hypno in format that puts both Pokemon to sleep, so you can get this to go. 5 energy is an awful lot to ask though. And then its GX attack is Pulverizing Pancake, which is actually the name of its Z move from Snoralium Z. I don't know, Snoralium? I think? It's whatever, it's Z Crystal thing. 210 damage for the same 5 energy, and it puts itself to sleep. Yeah. The whole point is that you can only use that GX attack once, but it does kind of just delete anything in the game right now. It is a basic Pokemon, so Fighting Fury Belt is a thing, and with that it does 220, which is enough to KO like everything except Zygarde basically that is playable. So you get a once per game, delete the opponent, and put yourself to sleep thing. Yeah, it's just 5 energy is an awful lot to get, even for a colorless Pokemon. That is very difficult to power up, so yeah. We get 3 additional promos. I actually don't think this one comes out at this time, but I'm talking about it anyway just because it's relevant. We have 2 promos that we are not able to physically play at this time, because the cards that are associated with them rotated before they came out. The Lucario Spirit Link is the 3rd one, but I don't think we have it until like next set or something. But it's worth noting because, yeah, Lucario rotated, and then it got a Spirit Link, so F you, basically. Yeah, Crobat Break would have been fantastic if we still had Crobat. Let's rotate this guy around too, because it's worth noting. 160 HP, so only like plus 30 from the original one. Very low for a stage 2 break. Like, I think this is the lowest one, but it doesn't really matter because it's going back in the deck anyway. For 3 colorless, or double colorless if you had Dimension Valley, rotated as well, but details. 60 damage. Leave the opponent's active paralyzed if you choose, and doing that shuffles this Pokemon and all cards attached to it back into the deck. Which, if you remember the Crobat line, allows you to put the Golbat and the Crobat back in to evolve them later and do more damage kind of shenanigans. It would have been beautiful, I would have loved it, I would have played the thing to high hell and back. But we can't, because there is actually no Crobat in format right now. For real. There is one in the next set, but it's just so stupid. Likewise, not that I would play it because it's awful, but this Mega Gengar can't be played either because there's no Gengar EX in format anymore. So yeah, I don't know what this was all about. 120 damage for 3 Psychic and a colorless, and the opponent's active is confused and poisoned. It is actually just worse than the Venusaur, which was released in the very first XY set. Yeah, because this one paralyzes instead of confuses, which is a much better status condition, and it has more HP. I don't know what they were thinking with that one. Whatever. It's there, I suppose. Alright, let's talk about the dumpster fire that is this set. We'll get into the actual important cards first, because there aren't that many of them, but there's enough to sort of note. The one different supporter in here is Brock's Grit, at least for the stuff that actually matters. Shuffle 6 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy from the discard pile into the deck. It's a supporter, so you could VS Seeker it as well. It's 2 Super Rods stuck together. It is shuffle 6, not shuffle up to 6, so you may have to take more stuff than you are comfortable with. But yeah, it's pretty solid, because VS Seeker is very good. We don't have Battle Compressor anymore, so we can't like bin supporters like this quite as easily, so who knows if this is going to be useful right now. But it is, at least when it gets reprinted near the end of Gen 7, is very useful. So yeah, keep it in mind. We'll go reverse order because we're here anyway. Dragonite EX is one of the 2 main cards out of the set, really. When you bench this Pokemon, you can put 2 basics except Dragonite EXs from your discard pile into the hand. This is really good for the Gardevoir deck that I played before, Despair Ray, and is pretty good for Rayquaza as well, because this lets you be a bit more aggressive about dumping, or it can recover from Parallel City being played against you, because you get a couple of basics that were discarded back into the hand. Obviously you can get stuff like Hooper and Shaman with this. You could search it with one of those if you need to, so that can be pretty powerful. Its attack is too expensive, so we don't really care about it, but I guess Magnezone could maybe play it. Not really sure if you would actually play this in Magnezone, because it's just a bit expensive really, but yeah, it's kind of cool, so we have that there. Both the Rattata and the Raticate are actually noteworthy. Sai is going to play this in probably the biggest war crime we've seen in a while, which is saying something considering item lock has been prevalent, but details. When you bench Rattata from the hand, you can discard all tools attached to the opponent's active Pokemon. It's worded that way because of the ancient trait that Entei and Gyarados have that let you play 2 tools, so you could discard both of them if they have to. Yeah, it's an ability, so obviously Garbodor shuts it down, but also Garbodor's never active, so it wouldn't get hit by this anyway. But it's kind of nice to be able to just play this in Mega Gardevoir, discard the opponent's Fury Belt, and then discard this with Gardevoir's Despair Ray, and you can hit the 170 damage or whatever you need to take out their active. So that's cool. It evolves into a 60 HP Raticate, which has 2 pretty good 1 energy attacks here. For Crunch, you do 10 damage and auto discard an energy from the opponent's active, so that's really good. Play that with stuff like Team Flagrant or Crushing Hammers and such, and you can stop the opponent's active having anything. And if you manage to discard a bunch of special energy, just like that old Drifblim from Gen 5, Shadowy Bite does 60 for each special energy in the opponent's discard pile. So that is also very strong. There is still Raticate Break in format, but I think that works better with the other Raticate because you don't poison yourself. Although you could play Chaos Tower for that, so yeah, it's still got the break. That's kind of neat. Clefairy, unironically, midway through Gen 7 actually becomes pretty important because Rayquaza GX ends up being stupidly good, and as a fairy type, this can be a techable counter to it. It's got the same metronome attack as what the original Clefairy had. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the same as the original Clefairy, just it's fairy type now. Yeah, choose one of the opponent's active Pokemon's attacks, use it as this attack. Takes 3 colors to do it, and it is of course a 40 HP Pokemon. There's never really a Clefable that it evolves into, it's just good because it's fairy type and can counter the enemy Ray. So there is that. Technically I think this Mewtwo was something that you could use with like Mewtwo X as the Mega, because with Shrine of Memories, regeneration is fine, I suppose. Energy absorption would be good, but we can't attack going first, so it is pretty vulnerable. But I suppose you could discard like double colorless or something, get it back onto this thing. So that's not the worst out there. So that's kind of neat. The more relevant Mewtwo is actually the non-EX one. This is important when 2018 format starts and Crimson Invasion becomes a thing, because Buzzwole ends up being very good. It's weak to Psychic, and this is one of the best non-EX or GX Psychic attackers that we have that can actually hit for weakness. 20 damage plus 20 more for each energy the opponent's active has on them. It's simple, but it does quite a lot of damage at the time and is worth noting. Otherwise, there's like one more, I think, and it is the Starmie. This is fantastic for Greninja decks. It is old school energy retrieval on an ability. Once during your turn, this 90 HP water type lets you discard a card from the hand, put 2 basic energy from the discard into the hand. Play this with Greninja, it lets you get the water energy back with the ability and then discard them with the giant shurikens and do a ton of stuff. That is it for everything which is relevant from this set, which even then is stretching the definition of relevant a little bit for a couple of these. I don't think the Mewtwo is particularly relevant, but you know, it is what it is. We'll just quickly go over the rest of the stuff that I think is fun at the very least in this set. Beedrill is very funny. For a Grass and a Colorless, this does 40 for each Beedrill that you have in play to one of the opponent's Pokemon. It is a snipe move, so that's pretty solid. Forest of Giant Plants obviously exists right now, so there is a deck for this. The problem is it takes 2 energy, and I'm not really sure how the second one goes on right now. That is a problem to solve later, I suppose. Also, the Weedle's got like 40 HP. I don't know if there's a 50 HP one in format right now. There might be, but yeah. Very funny, not very good. But still, Forest is pretty fun, so maybe there's something you could do there, like Beedrill Shaman stuff. Charizard is, again, funny. It's the old school Charizard, but now it does 200 instead of 100. I have to discard 3 energy on it, but it's the same otherwise. All energy attached to it are fire, so if you put Magnezone with it, that was the fun combo bit. Do 200 damage. It's pretty neat. We did lose Muscle Band, so hitting 220 is not possible though, and 200 doesn't kill everything, so it's pretty lame. Ninetales gets a break. This does 10 plus 60 for every fire energy that you discard from it. It takes 2 energy to start with, but you always have to discard every fire. And yeah, 10 damage is terrible. We don't have Welder we don't have Welder because that's like end of Gen 7, but we also don't have Blacksmith anymore, so there is no way of getting this powered up quickly. If you could Blacksmith to this, and like every turn just be like Blacksmith, attach fire from hand, do 190, that's not unreasonable. Still pretty bad for a break though of a stage 1. So yeah, it's just very cumbersome even if you manage to get that off. The Arcanine that you would play with Arcanine Break is this one. Has 130 HP, so pretty reasonable. It has the Burning Road ability, so if this Pokemon becomes active from the bench, you can move any number of fire energy from your other Pokemon to this one. And then Scorching Breath for free fire and a colorless does a pretty good 150 damage, but it can't attack next turn. It is still not enough damage to take out a lot of the stuff with it, but if you consider the Arcanine Break can let you get more energies and such into play and can tank fairly well, you could probably play like a high switch count sort of thing with this. Play like a decent bit of switch, play some max potions so you can heal off the Arcanine that you took damage with last turn. If the opponent can't hit 160 every time, then you're in a reasonable spot. Problem is 160 is still very reachable, and it is very slow because of the way the evolution stuff works. Poliwrath is not a good card, but it does have the attack type, which is going to be very good at the end of this next season coming up, because Golisopod GX kind of has some DNA with this. And right now, Urshifu VMAX actually has this sort of thing too. For 1 water energy, you do 50, but if this was on the bench and became active this turn, it does 100 instead. So, yeah, it's a 1 energy, fairly solid sort of bit for it. We do have Manaphy, so I guess if you could get enough of these into play, there's sort of a deck there, but it's maybe just a little bit underpowered for the stuff here. Very doable, just not a good enough payout for doing so. Slowbro has got the dumbest attack name in the universe, lol rollspin. Like, I'm not even gonna go over this one, to be honest. It's just like, it's Meteor Mash style, but it also confuses you as well. It's like, what the heck is the point? What else we got? The Electrode is something. If you knock out Electrode, you can attach it to one of your lightning Pokemon and provide 2 lightning energy to it. Main problem with this, apart from giving up a prize, is that it's a special energy, and we're in a format that has like Enhanced Hammer as a possibility, and quite a few decks will play it at this point. We did just lose Xerosic, so some decks will replace that with Enhanced Hammer. And yeah, the more I've been seeing PTCG Legend stuff, there's quite a lot of Hammer in this format, so there. I kind of like Zapdos for the Magnezone deck, because we have Fisherman that can recover all the energy. It's got no weakness and a fighting resistance, and Thunderbolt does do 170, but that's just barely not enough to get the EXs and GXs, which are relevant at this point. Even with a Fury Belt, that's still 180, which is not going to be enough for all of the stuff that we're going to see, so it's just not quite there. Nidoking gets a break. It is the worst thing I've ever seen in the universe here. 120 damage to 2 Psychic and a Colorless, 2 damage counter Poison. Like, really, I guess it's 140 at that point. But it's a stage 2 break. Like, come on, you expect, if you're going to spend free energy on a stage 2 break, it better re-KO all of the opponent's Pokemon in the game. And in the hand, and in the binder, because otherwise it's not going to do anything. You know, it's just stupid. Mew... It's the same Mew, basically, except it's got a stronger Cybolt, but it's the same Mew that was a promo back in the day. Can't be damaged by or affected by evolution stuff, which is neat, but it's 40 HP, and the opponent just has to like put a Light Breeze against it. Also takes 2 energy for its Cybolt now, so that's kind of lame. Machamp technically gets a break as well. It's another Meteor Mash style thing, or Echoed Voice. It does more damage to the opponent's active next turn. Problem is, with these type of attacks, the big problem is if you get forced out of the active with Escape Rope or Lysander or something like that, that effect resets. We have another problem now that is Pokemon Ranger. If Ranger gets used, then this also gets cancelled, so it's just even worse now. So, yeah, kind of sucks to be Machamp, whatever. Pidgeot is the last of the Megas that we see here. It's, like, not the furthest thing from cool, but, like, why would you play this over Rayquaza, pretty much? Same basic stats, but without Delta Evolution. That's a big truck over there. Oh, it's the farmer. His goal is... Sorry, getting distracted by the outdoors. Yeah, just hearing the traffic going outside and thinking that's kind of neat. Anyway, it's more interesting than this set, I'll tell you that. Yeah, Featherlance it's like worse Night Spear, right? Night Spear being 90-30 would have been reasonable. 80-20 is just nowhere near good enough as far as like bench active to bench damage goes. Mirror Move is like, I guess kind of neat if you survive a hit. You could maybe do some Mirror Move shenanigans. If you could survive a hit with Fury Belt, so like 200 or less damage, and then go Max Potion, 1 energy Mirror Move, that could be something that you do. But yeah, that's obviously relying on the opponent being an idiot and just not like reading the card, so that's never a good sign. And then the Mega itself, 220 HP, 0 retreat at least, which is very fitting for Pidgeot. And Mark Cyclone does 130. You can force the opponent to switch. Why are we not just playing Rayquaza and blowing up the opponent? That's what it comes down to. Ray has so many things going for it, and it costs the same as what this does, so there's just no reason to play this whatsoever. The only new supporter in this set that isn't Box Grip is this one over here. Professor Oak's hint, draws until you have 7 cards in hand. That's pretty good. Your turn ends. Yeah. Even if you draw 7 off of this, your turn is just over. You don't get to play any of those cards. You don't get to attack. You don't get to do any fun stuff. It just draws until 7. It's really bad. We currently do not have the replacement card for this, but next set we will in Lily, which just draws until 6 but has no downside. Also has an upside if you play it on the first turn though. So it's even better. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything else in here we already have, except Pokédex is technically a returning card here. That's kind of neat, but nobody's going to play it anyway, so who really cares? Yeah, I hate this set. There's some funny stuff down here as well, like we do get Flying and Surfing Pikachu back in all their quote-unquote glory. They are exactly the same cards as before. Alolan and no, it's not even Alolan, because we aren't there yet. Executor kind of looks like it could be. But yeah, this is a very weird one. You can technically play this card. You can't play like Imakuni's Doduo that came along as well though, because it has red text down there that says it can't be used at official tournaments. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry if this seems like it's wasting a lot of time on a set, that doesn't matter. But some of the promo stuff is really cool, so there's at least that going on. Hopefully, we will just be like punching through this one as quick as we can. There's another set of hate going as well. Huh. Yeah, we'll be punching through this one as quick as we can. We're just going to do one quick round of this in on the Saturday stuff, and then moving on to the much more fun Sun and Moon base set here. So we'll have a lot more to talk about next time, and it should be more interesting than this. But for now, thank you very much for watching. If you have made it this far, apologies for the distractions and all of that, but you know, farmers taking stuff out, it's pretty neat. So yeah, till next time though, take care.